we are going to go a little bit further into time and more about calculating time today. So we are going to start off today on page 183 in your pink workbook, all the way up here at the top at the very, very first problem, number 1. All right? And you can see it says write the times using AM or PM. It shows a clock which starts off at 8:50 a.m. It is wondering what time it will be 4 hours later, and it even shows you the ending clock too. So this one's not too bad. Let me show you really quickly right here on the big clock. I've got a huge one. There's the huge clock, and right here you can see we're just after 8, not quite hitting 9, and this is pointing to this is the hour hand right here, so it's 8. And my minute hand points to the 50 because you remember it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. Minute hand points to the 50, hour hand points to right before the 9, which is still 8 o'clock. So we're starting at 8:50. We want to jump 4 hours into the future. All right, so every time this minute hand goes one complete circle, it's going to be 1 hour. So let's just do it this way first. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and 4 hours. We didn't have any minutes on this problem. As you can see, now my hour hand is pointing right before the 1, but it hasn't passed it yet. So it's right after the 12. It is 12. My minute hand, of course, is still pointing on the 50 because we didn't add any extra minutes. So my final answer for this problem will be 12:50. Oh, but wait. We were at AM. Every time you pass the 12, every time you pass the 12 in the clock with your hour hand, you're either going to be going from AM to PM or PM to AM. So let's go back for a second. Okay, so we were at 8:50, and this was 8:50 AM. There's 9:50 AM. There is 10:50 AM. There's 11:50 AM. 11:55 AM. Once you hit that 12, you have just crossed into the PM territory. So now it is 12 o'clock PM. 12 o'clock PM is noon. That's usually when you eat lunch. So 12 o'clock PM, and then keep going. You've got 12:50 PM, and that's where we were before. So it's really important whenever you cross that 12, remember you are switching either from AM to PM, or if you are already at PM, then you're switching from PM to AM. And when you switch from PM to AM, you're actually switching at midnight. You switch at midnight, it turns into 12 o'clock AM. All right, so let's turn this into a little timeline right up here. Using our number line, this is probably how you'll solve most of your problems. All right, so you've got 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11, 12, that's where it turns to noon, and that's where also it turns to PM. And then you have 1 o'clock PM. Your problem started at 8:50 AM, which you cannot really see. 8:50. All we did was add 4 hours on. So 8 plus 4 is 12. This was an easy one because we did not have to add any minutes. So 8:50 plus 4 hours be 1, 2, 3, 4 hours right here. 12:50 PM. Go ahead and write that in on your very, very first answer. All right, right now we are going to move on to page 183, letter number 1C. You're going to do 1B on your own for homework. All right, so now we're on 1C, and we want to know what time it is, 6 hours and 35 minutes after 8:50 a.m. At first, this seems a little bit daunting. You're like, how do I figure this one out? Well, let me show you. Let me give you some tricks up here. Okay, so you've got 8:50 a.m. We want to know what time we are going to end over here. 6 hours and 35 minutes after 8:50. All right, so this time, instead of just hours, we have minutes too. The easiest thing that I have found in solving these problems is how many minutes does it take to get us to the next hour? Okay, so we started 8:50 a.m. How many minutes to get till 9 o'clock? Well, remember, every hour is 60 minutes. So from 8:50 to 9 is just 10 minutes. Okay, so just 10 minutes, and let's just check that really fast. Okay. So we've got 8:50 right here. Here's my hour hand right past the 8, and my minute hand is on the 50 mark. And so I go 5, 10. 10 minutes until I hit 9 o'clock. Perfect. All right, so we know that this right here is 10 minutes. Do you see this 35 minutes up here? Well, guess what? We have just taken care of 10 of these 35 minutes. Let's break this guy up. So we've got 35 is actually 10 minutes plus 25 minutes, because 10 plus 25 is 35. And look at this, my 10 minutes is right here. Boom, we've got that taken care of. Now, since we are at the big hour, right here at the hour mark, we are going to move on to my hours for a second. So we've got 6 hours. We start at 9. Let's jump 6 hours. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 hours brings us to 3 o'clock p.m. All right, so this all the way over here is 6 hours. So we've got the 6 hours taken care of. We've got my 10 minutes taken care of. Now we have to worry about my 25 minutes. Well, we know that 3 o'clock, if you're at 3 o'clock and you say, oh, well, how much longer? What time will it be in 25 minutes? Well, that's just 3:25. That's a really easy calculation. And that's going to end up right about here, right before 3:30. 3:25. From 3 to 3:25 is 25 minutes. Let's see if I've taken care of everything. I've got my 6 hours. I've got my 10 minutes. And then I've got my 25 minutes over here. So what time will it be? 6 hours, 35 minutes after 8:50 a.m.? Well, it will be 3:25 p.m. Don't forget, after we cross that 12 o'clock with my hour hand and my minute hand, it turned into p.m. That was noon. Now we're moving on to page 184. We're going to be working on number 4 all the way at the top. I'm going to be doing A, C, and E on my whiteboard here. And then for homework, you will be assigned B, D, and F. So really pay attention right now and write these answers down. All right, so it wants to know the amount of time that passes from 10:40 a.m. to 12 o'clock noon. So these are called elapsed time problems. You'll be seeing more of these in the future. All right, so 10:40 a.m., we're right here, to 12 o'clock p.m. Okay, as you can see, I've already got this one all figured out on the board. How did I figure it out? Well, I knew I wanted to go from 10:40 to 11 to get to my closest hour, to my closest on the clock hour. All right, so here we go. We've got from 40 to 60 minutes, because that's when I get my new hour, is at 60 minutes. What is the difference there? I just subtracted 60 minus 40. 60 minus 40 is 20 minutes. I am at so from 10:40 to 11 o'clock a.m. is 20 minutes. Now, how long from 11 o'clock a.m. to 12 o'clock p.m.? Well, you remember after 11:59 a.m., you're going to go to 12 o'clock p.m. So you're switching from morning to afternoon, evening. Okay, so there it is. It's just 1 hour in between 11 o'clock a.m. and 12 o'clock p.m. Just 1 hour. So how long is it all together? Well, here we go. It's 1 hour, 20 minutes. Let's move on to letter C. Letter C says, how much time passes from 10:40 a.m. to 2:15 p.m. I need to make my little number line here, my time number line, a little bit longer. So I've got to get to 2:15 p.m. So I've got 12 o'clock p.m. And then here would be 1 o'clock p.m. And then 2 o'clock p.m. And then finally 15 minutes after 2 o'clock is 2:15 p.m. So I want to know how much time passes from this number, from this time, to this time. All right, let's figure it out. Well, we know the first thing we like to do is to try to get to the closest hour, and we already did that in our last problem. Let's just take what we already know. So from 10:40 to 11 o'clock a.m. is only 20 minutes. I'm going to put that up here so I don't forget that. All right. Now I'm going to go from my 11 o'clock a.m. to my 2 o'clock p.m. because I'm just worried about those hours right now. So starting at 11, I have 1, 2, 3. So 11, 12, 1, 2. That's 3 hours all together. From 11 o'clock a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. Finally, I have to go a little bit past 2 o'clock p.m. to get to my 2:15 p.m. Well, we know how much time is in between 2 o'clock and 2:15. It's just 15 minutes. So I've got my 20 minutes, my 3 hours, and my 15 minutes. I do need to add my minutes up for this one. So 20 plus 15, 5 plus 0 is 5, 2 plus 1 is 3, that's 35 minutes. And then of course I have my 3 hours. So how much time has passed? Well, you're going to write 3 hours and 35 minutes. Now let's look at number 4, letter E. This one is very similar, just a touch different. It says it wants to know how much time between 10:42 a.m. and 2:15 p.m. All right, so before we worked with 10:40 a.m. We're just going to change this to 10:42. Since we just took off 2 minutes from there, this is not going to be 20 minutes anymore. It's actually going to be only 18. But this is how you can figure it out the long way in case you want to just make sure you're right. So remember, we hit 11 o'clock a.m. at 60 minutes. And then we're going to subtract the 42. And I need to borrow. And there we go. We have 18 minutes from 10:42 a.m. until 11 o'clock a.m. We have to get to 2:15 p.m. Well, guess what? That is the exact same time I had before. So from 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock, we already determined it was 3 hours. And then from 2 o'clock to 2:15, we've already done that too, 15 minutes. Great, we are done, except we have to add my minutes here. 15 plus 18. That's 33 minutes. And we have my 3 hours right there. So you can write 3 hours, 33 minutes. Okay, and as you can see, it was just 2 minutes of a difference from letter C that we've already figured out. Okay, so if you want to, you can even pause me, write this timeline down, and it will help you solve B, D, and F on your homework later. Let's move on to the next section. We're in section number 5, and we're going to do a few of these together once again, and then I'll assign a couple to you for homework. All right, so the first one says, what time is it? 8 hours, 50 minutes after 7:25 p.m. Okay, so 8 hours, 50 minutes after this time right here. Now notice, for this one, we're going to have to actually cross into our p.m. We're going to have to actually go from p.m. to a.m. because we're going to go past 12 o'clock a.m. We're going to go past midnight because it's only about 5 hours in between here. We have to go a whole 8 hours and 50 minutes. Well, how many minutes does it take to get to my next on the clock hour? All right, so we've got my next closest hour is 8 o'clock p.m. How many minutes from 7:25 to 8 o'clock? Once again, I'll do my 60 minutes minus 25. Borrow. 10 minus 5, 5 minus 2. So it's going to take me 35 minutes to get from 7:25 to my next closest hour. Okay, so 35 minutes. So we know that we need to go 8 hours and 50 minutes altogether. We've already taken care of 35 of those minutes. Let's go ahead and break up my 50 minutes into two separate parts. Okay, so we've got 35 minutes over here, and then 35 plus what is 15? 35 plus 15 is 50. I should have said 35 plus what is 50. I gave you the answer. The 35 plus 15 is 50. Okay, so we've already taken care of my 35 minutes. Now we've got to deal with my 8 hours and my 15 minutes, and we'll worry about that at the very end. So now that we're at the next whole hour, let's go ahead and do our hours. Okay, so we're starting at 8 o'clock p.m. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's my 4 hours right there. I need a bigger board. Okay, that's only 4 though. I need 8 altogether. So where's my other 4? Well, it is going to be, I'm going to erase, actually I'll keep that. It's going to be right here. Okay, so 4 plus 4 is 8. So it's 8, we start at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's my 4 hours. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my other 4 hours. This is 4 o'clock a.m. Great, so now I've got, I know this is hard to read, I've got my 8 hours done. I've got my 35 minutes done. Now I've got to do my 15 minutes. So we are going to add another 15 minutes on right to there. And this question mark will become 4:15 a.m. What time is it? 8 hours and 50 minutes after 7:25 p.m. Well, it is 4:15 a.m. I took care of my 8 hours. I divided my 50 minutes up into 35, which I took care of right here, and my 15, which I took care of right there. Now we're moving on to letter B under number 5. This time we want to know what time is it? 8 hours 55 minutes after 7:25 p.m. So we still have our same starting time. We can reuse a lot of this. We want to know 55 minutes. So all of a sudden these numbers are going to change a bit. We'll have to change those. Everything else we're going to keep like it is, and we're going to go from here, okay? So we knew that when we started off, we determined that it was 35 minutes from 7:25 to 8 o'clock p.m., 35 minutes. So 35 of these 55 minutes are taken care of. Let me erase my check mark there too. So 35 out of 55 are taken care of. So now 35 plus what is 55? 35, 45, 55, 20. Okay, so we just divided my 55 up into two separate parts. 35 plus 20. Okay, guess what? We've already got our 35 minutes taken care of. From 7:25 to 8 o'clock p.m., it's 35 minutes. Now we're at my solid hour. So now we're going to go 8 hours from there. And guess what? We've already done that too. We had 4 hours to 12 o'clock a.m. And then we had another 4 hours to 4 o'clock a.m. Great. We finished my 8 hours. This one has to change. We have 20 minutes now because we are going because we added on to these minutes right here. So we are at 20 minutes. So instead of 15 minutes, this is going to be 20 minutes. And 4 o'clock, 20 minutes after 4 o'clock a.m. is 4:20 a.m. All right, so what time will it be? It will be 4:20 a.m. for letter B.